If you're going through a divorce or thinking about going through divorce, child custody, or support, of course, one of the things you're going to be thinking about is how am I going to afford this? How much does it cost? And what do I do if I don't have the money? So there are a couple options. Yes, it is expensive because the lawyers are getting paid and the other side's getting paid. And it's usually going to be a billing concept on time. What that means is you're paying the lawyer for their time, regardless of what they're doing. If they're going to court with you and they have to sit there for 2 hours, you're paying for that time. So some of the things you can do to try to keep your costs down would be to settle out of court. But where do you get that initial money to afford a divorce and how are you going to afford it? Or if it's custody or support. If it's in the divorce concept, sometimes a lawyer will look at what your assets are and they may be able to work with you to get some money now and then a lot of the money once the divorce case settles out of whatever distribution you're going to get. In other cases, like custody and support, there isn't really going to be money at the end. There will be in support, but not enough to pay your legal fees. So, things to explore in affording a divorce would be number one, talking to your lawyer about ways you can keep the costs down. What things can you do yourself that the lawyer doesn't need to do for you? So, that's in any realm of law where you're paying out of pocket. Maybe you can collect your information. A big one in the divorce is information gathering. The more you can gather yourself, the cheaper it's going to be. If we need your bank records, it's a lot cheaper for you to go get them than for the lawyer to have to subpoena the other party or subpoena your own bank to get the records because you don't have time. You will save yourself a lot of money if one, you keep your records during the marriage, but two, you go do some of that legwork yourself. Sometimes it is worth, depending on how much you're making, to have somebody else go get it for you because you have to look at the cost of your time versus the cost of what you're going to pay a lawyer to go do it. But sometimes you're going to have to go to a friend or you're going to have to go to family and ask them to lend you money until you may be able to pay them back. Other ways are there are some programs. We have a link on our website where you can apply for credit for legal services. But in those cases, you're going to need to A, have good credit, and B, you're going to need to pay an interest fee. So you got to consider that too. That's really not the ideal option, but it is an option for someone that doesn't have any other means of retaining an attorney. Um, Sometimes you may talk to your lawyer about what things you can do yourself, meaning maybe the lawyer isn't going to go to court with you, but they could help you fill out the paperwork. And that's better than not having an attorney. Sometimes you think, I can do this myself, but really the bulk of it is navigating the paperwork and making sure you meet the deadlines and understanding what the court orders require of you to do. So you could always have a consultation with a lawyer on an hourly basis to try to determine and navigate that process if you can't afford to have the lawyer for everything. But it really comes down to choosing the legal battles that are worth the money. So when you're going to court on custody and you're fighting over something minor, you need to consider the cost associated with fighting and how important is that in the long run? Is it really going to make a difference for your children when they're 20, that you fought over transportation when they were 10? Um, you really got to think about, is this really going to matter 10 years from now or 15 years from now? And the same goes with anything that you're litigating as far as being able to afford the divorce. If you're getting divorced, is that $20,000 difference that you're fighting over worth the 30,000 you might spend to get it based on principle? It's probably not. And in 10 years, it might not make a difference for you. So affording your divorce means being reasonable about your expectations and outcomes and doing some of that legwork yourself. And you may, like I said, have to go to family and friends, use credit cards, or even apply, for funding if needed. But the best thing you can do is really talk to your lawyer and find ways that they can help you keep the costs down.